It's March 7th, 2024, and it's a little bit before, a little after 3 o'clock a.m. this morning. And most of you know that my prayer time starts around 12, but I really don't really get into the prayer like I want to until 2 a.m. until daybreak. Well, as I was just talking to God, and He had me put some things on paper, which, in other words, in writing, I shouldn't say on paper, but in writing as to what is going on in this particular season. And after I did that, he said, tell my people that I am doing something that is so spectacular in the earth that unless you come up higher, you're not going to see it. And you got to get quiet for a moment and get still. You can be in the world, but you don't have to be a participant in some of the things. You don't have to be of the world. And the things that God was showing to me, they're so awesome until I don't know that I can reveal all of them. But what I will share is this, that we have already entered into a dispensation of spirit and truth. Remember when, they were asking, where we're going to worship you? Do we have to go to Jerusalem? Do we have to go to this place or whatever? But they were mostly specifically speaking of Jerusalem. And Jesus said to them, Jesus, Yeshua, Messiah, the Son of God, said to them, there's going to come a time when you're not necessarily going to have to go to Jerusalem, but you're going to worship me in spirit and in truth. And this is the hour in which he spoke of. Yes, there was some worshiping of spirit and truth, but not to this magnitude. He is saying emphatically, spirit and truth. Spirit and truth. And have you noticed that there is a dwindling of the population of people who are churched on Sunday and Sabbaths? But that's not true in all of the churches. In some of the churches, you got large crowds, but it's not necessarily crowds that are embracing the gospel. It's more show and tell or whatever. And I won't exclude that there may be some that are not within that category. But I do have to speak what God is saying, because this ain't about me. This is not my opinion. So excuse me for even making that statement. God said that his spirit has been withdrawn from some churches, and it is being withdrawn in increments from many more churches. And the reason why is because we have focused on the man or the woman, whomever is the pastor. Pastor said, God said, and they have not thought about what I am saying, and have become so reliant upon and worshipers of those in leadership that they have followed blindly, like little sheep following wolves. And those wolves have taken them into places of danger where you could be destroyed, but for the grace of God and for the power of God. And some of us, or some of you have lost your footings in God simply because you're under doctrine and in churches where the individual who is over the church has become the God, your God, and even God to himself. And so what God is saying in this hour is come up and open the third eye. And I think I've talked about this before, that the third eye was situated in the center of the forehead. Now the third eye has moved down to the navel. And I will do another video on that, but I want to focus more on what God is saying, but I'm just trying to give you a little bit of information so that you can understand and better be able to discern what God is saying spiritually. Okay. He's applying this politically. We are looking at the scene being set for the Antichrist. Yes, the Antichrist, the real Antichrist. Yeah. And if we're looking at the scene being set for the real Antichrist, then we also are looking for the great coming, the catching up. We say of the church, but I say of the embodiment of Christ, because he said that we are, the church is his embodiment. And so I'm not talking about denominational. I am not. And that is not what God is allowing me to do. He's talking about the church as a spiritual tabernacle of his dwelling, the dwelling of his spirit. That's what the church is. The church is considered a vessel that is filled with his spirit, and not only his spirit, but his word, to the extent that we are spiritually transformed by the renewing of our minds. And as a result of that, we have presented ourselves as a living sacrifice before God, doing all we can to be holy and acceptable. So the war is coming against believers. And the best way that Lucifer can get to the believers is through trickery, witchcraft, trickery, all that. He makes you think something that's not true, or he gives you a part of it that's true, and he adds to that which is not true and that which is not of God. So be careful, be careful, be careful in this season. It's a deceptive season. And where the powers of darkness are working mostly are in the church and in politics and families. Church, politics, and families. We understand pretty much the church. And some of us understand in families, because there are families that are so broken right now. And some of it is supposed to be that way, because just because somebody is your family member does not mean that you agree and walk with them in darkness. And sometimes you got to turn or loose them because they are so connected to the world. Okay? So, but one of the parts that was just glaring at me as I'm in my prayer time this tonight, early morning, because like I said, it's a little after 3, is that we are being deceived politically. First of all, we're being divided along partisan politics. Stop it. You are my sister. You are my brother. And I do not care what party affiliation that you have. You're my sister and my brother, because the devil himself is in the politics. Why is he in the politics? It's because he knows that if he can get enough of us or y'all, because I'm not going to be included in it, and I hope you aren't either, if he can get enough humans to follow him, he thinks he can construct this government of darkness within the earth. That ain't going to happen. But what is going to happen is that he's going to make an attempt to do that. And in that attempt, he's going to take some Republicans, some Democrats, and some independents. And so y'all need to wake up. We need to wake up. And I have to include myself, because I had to shake myself. And over the last 6 months, God woke me up. And I'm not talking about the woke movement. The devil always uses some terminology contrary to what it is spiritually. Woke don't mean that other thing that y'all talking about. God tells us to awaken out of our sleep and slumber. spiritually so that we can see with spiritual eyes what is going on. And when you are awakened to what the powers of darkness are doing spiritually, you will not follow them. You will not. And if you do follow them, it's because you want to and because, you made the determination that you don't really care. You're going to do whatever you're going to do. So you have determined your own fate. But God wants us to be fully aware that politics is a deadly trap where it is going to and presently is doing a job on the church and the body, embodiment of God, embodiment of Christ, the children of God, all of us. And we are seeing so much divisiveness. And also, I'm going to say this, and some of y'all may get a little upset with me about it, but you know what? You can get upset with me about it. But, when that time comes, you're going to understand exactly. You better be careful who you are advocating for this White House. Okay? Because God's is saying it ain't either one of them. It is not. It is not either one of them. And he told me specifically, he said, neither to the right nor to the left, but you should hear a voice saying, here's the way, walk there in it. Here's the path of God, walk there in it. And this is why that, even as God is calling me to run for Congress, 3rd District, Tennessee, I have moved to the middle. I'm willing to embrace people on the left and the right to compromise, not compromise, but to come to a godly decision about what is in the best interest of the people. But I don't want to get into the politics. I want to stay clear of that. I want to talk more about the spiritual politics. The church has got to come front center. Okay? Christ did not, and he was not crucified on the left or the right. Where was Christ crucified? Or where did he hang? He hung in the middle. And God is saying, come to the middle so you can see both the good and the bad of the left and the right. And you can see the evil on both sides. And you can be central to the throne and to knowing exactly what God wants from you and what he expects of you. And America is being attacked because it is the melting pot, and in it there are individuals from every nation and from every ancestral lineage that was created in the Garden of Eden. Yes, that's true. And whether you understand it or see it or not, God said it. And so therefore, revival will start here. Revival is not starting in Jerusalem. This is the new Jerusalem. It is. And we're going to see that in a minute. But like I said, because a lot of pastors and preachers are not fasting, they're not praying, they're not setting themselves apart, they're not reading the gospel, they're not seeking God's face. They don't know, and when they do get something, it's not interpreted correctly. Because this is something you got to lock yourself away. And by the way, I put up a lot of stuff on Facebook that's happened weeks ago, and even months ago, particularly when I'm fasting and praying, and I'm not coming out for days on top of days on top of days up on top of days. Sometimes for as much as 2 weeks, I don't even come out, and don't even really leave my bedroom, which is my prayer, my war room. But it is important that we open our eyes and understand that the devil wants to divide the seed. Don't let him do it. Don't let him do it. Don't let politics divide us. I will always have Republican friends and sisters and brothers in the Lord. I will always have Democratic brothers and sisters in the Lord. And I will always have independents, brothers, sisters, and sisters in the Lord. I am not going to fall into that trap, and don't you either. And as I'm stepping out on this campaign trail, I am going to speak truth, nothing but the truth, because God has let me know that the failure to speak truth and any willingness to compromise truth or any opportunities that I may even be tempted not to speak truth. God said they're grave responsibilities. So I frankly don't care what you think about me. I don't frankly care what you do to me. My soul is secure, so do whatever you want to do to the body, but you can't get to my body without getting to the host of angels that are around me and a safeguard that God has put around me. So no, I'm not inviting anybody to do anything bad to me. I'm just telling you, hey, look, my soul, you can't touch my soul. And that's what's more important. And so please, y'all, please pay attention to what is going on in this presidential race. Pay attention. On one side, one is not as spiritual as he should be, and he is giving Satan opportunities to be able to birth a new race of people through same-sex marriage. And I have sons and daughters who are in the gay lifestyle, and I love them dearly. And I'm their spiritual mom. I love them, and I've had conversations with them. And this doesn't mean I don't love them, but they have to understand that don't let the devil use you. And I do understand that there are those who are born with dual sexualities. God will take care of that. He will. There are those who've been molested, and when you've been molested, sometimes those individuals, from talking to them, if you've been molested by your father, you don't want a man touching you. If it was your mother as a son, you don't want a woman touching you. And so God does extend grace in some circumstances. He does extend grace, but do not, those that are in the lifestyle, and a lot of y'all, I minister to you and I love you, and you know that y'all are available to me. You get availability to me priority over everybody else. But I want you, don't go so far that God can't reach you. Okay? So, but on the other side, there is someone who has set himself as being God. Oh yes, he has made a truce with the powers of darkness and entered into a covenant with the powers of darkness to become the Antichrist. Now, I don't think God's going to choose him as the Antichrist. But whether he does or not, he is doing harm to the body of Christ, because he's got Republicans fighting Democrats and Democrats fighting Republicans. But what is more sadder than anything else is that there are Republicans who are blind, who are willing to go to jail and to do whatever he says to do to their detriment. Yes. And we've seen that. We've seen that with the insurrection on the Capitol. Gave the orders, and they went and did that which they knew could have gotten them killed or could have done great harm to other people. But that's what happens when you walk in spiritual blindness. And this partisan politics cause you to be able to align with that which you know is wrong. And after a while, that spirit will fall on you, and you will become a vessel through which the enemy can use, the devil can use, the powers of darkness. And so God said, stop what you're doing in the middle of your prayer time. And he said, I need you to cry loud, spare not. Lift up the voice that I've given you like a trumpet in Zion. Blow the shofar and show my people where they are headed. Show them their transgressions and their sins, but also show them the consequences of that, and show them that there's an open door They're saying, come to me. I have a safe place for you. From the storms, from what is getting ready to come on this earth. And we're going to see something in America that we never thought we would see again. It's going to be worse than the Civil War if we don't stop and become repentant of the foolishness that's going on. And more importantly, stop following rulership that is blind. Stop it and see God's face. Don't let anybody convince you of anything without you first going to God. But you got to clear out all that whatever in your head and in your heart, so that when you go out to go to God, you have emptied out of yourself, so that you might get an answer from Him. God bless you. I'm gonna stop now because I got to get back in prayer, because I feel some heaviness that's falling, and the only thing that can keep the heaviness from manifesting itself, or allowing us to get through that heaviness, is seeking the face of God, seeking direction, and seeking power and strength to rise above that. Or if God so sees fit to cause you to go through it, or then He will give you the power to get through to the other side. God bless you. I love you so much. I do. I love you.